I'm Liam O'Connor, 45 years old, and for 15 years, I've carried the silent ache of a betrayal that muted my musical dreams and forced me to rebuild from the strings. It was the spring of 2010, a mild November evening in Auckland, the air filled with the scent of blooming pohutukawa trees from the Domain and the distant hum of traffic along Queen Street, when I faced my former conductor, Eleanor Harper, in the backstage rehearsal room of the Auckland Town Hall, a cultural jewel in New Zealand's largest city. The room, with its polished wooden floors, towering stacks of sheet music, and the faint echo of a tuning violin, had been my creative sanctuary during the relentless 10-hour rehearsals that defined my early career, a place where the swell of strings and the tap of a baton had fueled my passion. But that night it turned into a stage where my aspirations were silenced under the harsh glare of stage lights. I was 30 then, a talented violinist with a gift for composing my original symphony, featuring a fusion of Maori motifs and classical structures, winning a National Composition Prize and catching the ear of international critics, my work earning whispers of a conducting role among the dedicated musicians who saw me as the orchestra's future. I joined the Auckland Philharmonic Orchestra in 2008 after graduating with distinction from the University of Auckland School of Music, bringing a fresh voice to an ensemble steeped in tradition, aging instruments, rigid European repertoire, a turnover rate nearing 20%. My name a quiet hope among players who believed I could innovate the program. But that evening, as I presented a detailed score for a new concert series, blending indigenous rhythms, a collaboration with local artists, and a pilot performance I'd arranged with a small ensemble, to secure a $150,000 Arts Council grant and elevate the orchestra's profile, Eleanor's demeanor shifted from mentor to rival, her posture stiffening as she adjusted her baton. "You'll never lead this orchestra, Liam, stick to tuning," she snapped, her voice cutting through the hum of a muted cello, her eyes narrowing with a mix of jealousy and control as she tapped my score with her baton. She confessed, with a dismissive flick of her wrist that made my blood run cold, that she'd stolen my symphony, submitting it under her name to the grant committee just days before my presentation, securing the funding and a glowing review in the New Zealand Herald that praised her genius. To bury me, she orchestrated my demotion with fabricated accusations, erratic playing based on altered recordings, disruptive influence from a staged dispute over rehearsal pace, backed by a loyal first violinist she'd influenced, and a conveniently timed archive flood that lost my original manuscripts, which I'd stored in a locked case that appeared water-damaged after a maintenance mishap. The orchestra board, swayed by Eleanor's 10-year tenure, her connections to a prominent patron who'd funded the hall's renovation, and my lack of allies, my scores gone, leaving me voiceless, upheld her decision in 2011, reassigning me to section violinist, my reputation tarnished across New Zealand's music scene as unreliable and overambitious, a mark that clung to me like rosin on a bough. My partner, Hannah, a kind-hearted florist with a love for singing lullabies and a gentle soul, supported me, but our savings dwindled under rising rents in Ponsonby, our dream of a garden home with a music room fading into the cramped reality of a flat with peeling wallpaper, a wobbly chair, and a creaky floorboard that groaned through the nights. Those words, "Never lead this orchestra, stick to tuning," became a relentless echo, a haunting refrain that reverberated through every note I played, every rehearsal I endured, every moment I stood alone with my violin, the sound mingling with the rustle of sheet music and the distant hum of the city. I can still feel the weight of those early months after the demotion, sitting on that wobbly chair in our Ponsonby flat, the sky tower visible through the window a reminder of my lost heights, as I flipped through music journals and gig listings in the Listener, the ink smudging my fingers with each turn of the page, my eyes burning with exhaustion after sleepless nights replaying Eleanor's betrayal. The flat, with its thrift store furniture, a rickety table Hannah had salvaged from a market stall, a sofa with a faded cushion she'd patched with fabric, and a single window overlooking a busy street where street musicians played, felt a universe away from the resonant hall I'd envisioned, its air heavy with the lingering scent of rosin and paper I'd brought home on my case, a reminder of the life I'd lost. Hannah took on extra floral arrangements, weddings in Devonport, corporate events in Takapuna. Her evenings spent arranging blooms under a dim lamp, the scent of roses and eucalyptus a testament to her sacrifice, while I pieced together a fragile existence with freelance gigs at community centers in Manukau, wedding performances in Waiheek, and weekend shifts at a music shop in Newmarket. Each melody a fight to reclaim my craft, every dollar a step toward survival in a city where living costs soared and musical dreams felt unattainable. Our daughter, Aria, born in 2012 after years of hoping, grew up surrounded by violins turned into toys, composition books stacked beside her crib, her childish questions a tender ache. "Why don't you lead the big music, Papa?" she'd ask, her small hands tracing the edges of my prize certificate. I'd smile through the tightness in my throat, spinning tales of new songs to fill the world, but the truth gnawed at me. Eleanor had blacklisted me, her narrative of my instability spreading to conductors and festivals, her influence a barrier to my compositions, leaving me stuck in the strings of a career I'd once led. Eleanor's career thrived in the years that followed. By 2016 she'd elevated the Auckland Philharmonic to international acclaim, her name etched on awards from the Asia-Pacific Symphony League, her wealth evident in a waterfront villa in Herne Bay, a holiday bock in Coromandel, and a leased Mercedes for her tours. She hosted lavish concerts at the Aotea Center, her husband James dazzling in tuxedos at charity galas for music education, her son Oliver rising as a cellist with a degree from the Royal College of Music, while I rebuilt quietly, starting a small chamber ensemble by 2014 from our living room. My performances grew, local schools in Henderson, cultural festivals in Rotorua, who savored my compositions, my reputation a quiet undercurrent in New Zealand's music scene, passed along at arts markets and community halls. But the wound deepened with every milestone of Eleanor's success, her smug master classes at the University of Waikato, James's Instagram posts from Vienna, Oliver's debut with the London Philharmonic, each a fresh cut. My parents, both gone by 2020, had believed her lies, their final years dimmed by her version of events, their letters filled with concern over my struggles. Arya, now a 13-year-old violin prodigy at Auckland Grammar, wrestled with doubt, her early career shadowed by Eleanor's influence, her questions about my work strained by her admiration for the woman. Hannah's unwavering support, her hand-woven tapestries, her late-night lullabies over cups of chamomile, her repairs of our creaky floorboard, kept me grounded, her love a steady rhythm in the silence. The turning point came 4 years ago, in 2021, when the first cracks in Eleanor's polished facade emerged. Her orchestra faced lawsuits over unpaid musicians, audiences posted viral complaints on X about off-key performances, and a whistleblower exposed plagiarized scores in a RNZ concert exposé. At 40, with my fingers aching from years of bowing, I began my discreet investigation, contacting old players over coffee at cafes in Parnell. I'd meet them in the early mornings, my notebook a shield, listening to their tales of Eleanor's decline, overworked sections, stolen works, a culture of fear, over plates of flat whites and pastries. Last month, on July 20, 2025, I sat with Tara, a former violist who'd left in 2020, at a cafe in Ponsonby, the hum of espresso machines a faint backdrop. Her trembling hands passed me a USB drive. "She's desperate, stolen symphonies, fake credits, pressure on us to hide errors," she whispered, her voice thick with regret. "That piece was yours, Liam." My pulse raced. This was the evidence I'd waited for. On August 10, 2025, I contacted Ravi, a journalist with the New Zealand Herald who'd uncovered arts scandals with a keen eye, meeting him at his cluttered office in Britomart. We pored over the USB photos of my 2010 score sketch, detailed logs of Eleanor's theft, emails hinting at bribed adjudicators. "This could end her reign," Ravi said, his voice a mix of excitement and caution. "But we need the right stage." On August 22, 2025, I dug deeper, turning our Ponsonby flat into a detective's lair. Amid music scores and violin strings, I accessed public records online, my fingers stiff but resolute. At 10 a.m., I found it, a 2022 audit report buried in the Creative New Zealand archives, tied to my symphony, now linked to a plagiarism scandal that cost the orchestra $200,000 in settlements. My hands shook as I printed it, the past merging with the present in a surge of clarity. That evening at 5:49 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, adjusted to 3:49 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time on September 1, 2025, I sat by my window, the Auckland skyline a soft glow, plotting my next move. The New Zealand Music Awards were on September 20th, a glittering event to mask Eleanor's decline. I'd attend not as the tuner, but as her reckoning. What she didn't know was I'd transformed my pain into a crescendo of justice, composed by 15 years of resilience. The 4 weeks leading to the awards were a meticulous arrangement of strategy and secrecy, my days running the ensemble a cover for the revenge tuning in my mind. By August 25, 2025, our Ponsonby flat, its walls lined with music manuscripts faded by humidity, its table cluttered with score drafts stained with coffee, its air rich with the scent of rosin and jasmine, became my rehearsal space where every penciled note and string adjustment fueled my resolve. Ravi and I met nightly, his recorder open on my wobbly table as we dissected the USB and audit reports, the soft strum of a guitar a rhythm to our planning. My 2010 Symphony with its Maori motifs and classical fusion had won Eleanor her grant, its success a cornerstone of her rise, while my cultural tweaks, indigenous collaborations I'd proposed, had been misused, leading to the 2022 scandal. Terra's data revealed a pattern: stolen compositions from 2012, falsified credits in 2019, a cover-up of a 2021 tuning error hushed with adjudicator bribes, a fragile orchestra on the brink. I contacted Kiri, a retired conductor who'd clashed with Eleanor over a 2015 program dispute, her warm voice joining us via a crackling Zoom call from her home in Wellington. This could strip her titles, hit her mid-performance, she advised, her tone laced with old rivalries. I nodded, my plan a score crafted from 15 years of suppressed fury, each measure a memory of lost opportunities, stolen credit, shattered trust. The awards, set for 7 p.m. on September 20, 2025 at the Auckland Town Hall, would be Eleanor's showcase, a gathering of musicians, critics, media, and patrons, all drawn by the promise of prestige under the hall's grand dome. I'd pose as a retired musician, my suit swapped for a modest jacket with a hidden pocket, my movements slow with a cane to conceal my intent, my dark hair streaked with gray a symbol of my enduring passion. My task was to deliver the evidence to Ravi, who'd signal Kiri's conductor contacts at 8 p.m., timed with Eleanor's acceptance performance, ensuring maximum exposure. I secured an invitation through Aria, now a 13-year-old prodigy who'd impressed a judge at a school recital, her email on August 28, the glossy pass I clutched like a baton, her note reading, "You're my inspiration, Papa." She suspected nothing, her talent a tool I'd wield with care. Preparation was a rigorous rehearsal, a blend of physical discipline and emotional fortitude. I practiced my shuffle daily along Tamaki Drive, perfecting a weary gait and a warm, unassuming smile that masked my burning resolve, my cane tapping a rhythm of patience against the path. I rehearsed lines, just here to celebrate musical heritage, though each word carried the weight of Eleanor's betrayal, Hannah's steadfast love, and Aria's silent pride in my past. Physically, I played scales and composed daily, my fingers protesting, but each note strengthened my will to stand tall that night. I revisited old mementos, score sketches from 2010, a faded photo with Hannah at a music festival, a bow aria decorated, a rejected grant proposal, each a spark in my fire. One night I found a water-damaged manuscript from the archive flood, its pages blurred, and wept, the lost symphony fueling my fury. I tracked Aria's life, her violin lessons, her friendship with a pianist named Leo, hoping this act would secure her future free from Eleanor's shadow. On September 17th, Eleanor called, her tone silky with false warmth. "Liam, the awards are special. Bring Aria, let's mend fences," she said, her voice smooth but laced with condescension. I agreed, hiding my scheme. She didn't suspect I'd coordinated with Ravi, who'd lined up Kiri's contacts, or that I'd commissioned a jacket with a hidden pocket, its fabric a shield of my past honor. The jacket arrived on September 19th, tailored by a local seamstress from Grey Lynn, Mrs. Tue, who chatted about her garden, unaware of my mission. I tested the pocket, sliding the USB and audit inside, their weight a promise of justice. At 6:30 p.m. on September 20th, I arrived, the town hall alive with the clink of glasses and the murmur of excited musicians, the harbor glinting through the windows. Eleanor spotted me near the entrance, smirking. "Liam, still plucking strings?" "Sweet," she quipped. I nodded, my cane steady, my pocket ready. At 7:45 p.m. she began her performance, conducting my symphony with a smug flourish. I scanned the scene, Aria clapping awkwardly, Leo beside her, media filming, James sipping wine with a smug grin, Oliver tuning his cello. At 7:58 p.m. as Eleanor took her bow, I edged toward Ravi, my pulse a crescendo. I slipped him the USB and audit, whispering, "Now." He nodded, texting Kiri. At 8:02 p.m., Conductor stormed in, badges glinting under the dome lights, shouting, "Investigation underway." Eleanor's baton fell, her face paling as they seized her score. The award ceremony erupted into a maelstrom of chaos, attendees scattering like startled 2A birds fleeing the town hall's grand hall, media cameras swiveling to capture every frame of the unfolding drama, Eleanor's protests drowned by the authoritative commands of conductors that echoed off the ornate dome, the chandeliers casting fractured light across the scene. Aria stood stunned near a program table, Leo's hand on her arm offering silent support, her eyes wide with disbelief as the truth surfaced, while musicians murmured in clusters, their art world rocked by the revelation. I stood tall, my jacket a badge of my hard-earned resolve forged over 15 years, my cane a symbol of strength that had carried me through the quietest notes, my heart pounding with a mix of 15 years of vindication and the bittersweet ache of a family nearly lost to Eleanor's deceit that had cast a long shadow. Conductors swarmed the stage, their dark coats a stark contrast to the hall's elegant decor of velvet curtains and polished wood, cuffing Eleanor as she roared, "This is a farce. Liam, you'll pay," her voice cracking with the desperation of a woman watching her orchestra dissolve. They read charges, plagiarism that stripped her awards, falsified credits that undermined her reputation, safety risks from overworked players, each word a hammer blow to her legacy, the list growing with a $250,000 fine for unaccounted grants that funded her villa, their voices steady as they recited the litany. Ravi approached, his voice a lifeline amid the din of shouting and camera shutters. "They've got her, Liam. You've done it, her baton's broken," he said, his eyes alight with the thrill of the story. The media frenzy was instantaneous, headlines like Harper's Symphony scandal, and musician's 15-year revenge blazed across screens by 10 p.m., my name a murmur of awe in the chaos that swirled through the hall, microphones thrust toward me like bows seeking a string. Eleanor turned to me, her face flushed with rage that mottled her once composed features, sweat beading on her brow like condensation on a flute, her tailored gown now rumpled as conductors tightened their grip on her arms, her posture slumping under the weight of defeat. "You? After all this time, you petty little tuner? You've destroyed my career," she bellowed, her voice breaking with the desperation of a woman whose crescendo was crashing, her hands shaking as she pointed at me with a trembling finger. I met her gaze, unflinching despite the tremor in my own hands that betrayed the adrenaline coursing through me, my voice clear and resonant with the strength of 15 years of silent suffering that had tuned my resolve. "You said I'd never lead this orchestra, Eleanor, that I was only fit for tuning. I proved you wrong, with evidence that outshines your lies, with grit that outlasted your schemes, with every note I composed while you stole and faltered. This is my payback, for me, for Aria whose future you dimmed, for every musician you crushed, for every symphony you silenced with your ego." She lunged, her fist raised in a futile gesture of defiance that spoke of her last grasp at control, but conductors restrained her with firm hands, dragging her out as James sobbed hysterically, his wine glass slipping to shatter on the floor in a spray of red, a symbol of his fallen status. Aria rushed to me, her voice breaking through the noise like a lifeline tossed into a stormy sea. "Papa, I didn't know. I'm so sorry for admiring her," she said, tears streaking her face as she wrapped her arms around me, the first embrace in months that mended a rift I'd feared growing. I hugged her back, the warmth of her body against mine a balm to the wounds of the past, Leo nodding in support with a quiet smile, a bridge to a future reclaimed from the strings of my past. The crowd buzzed with reporters, their microphones thrust toward me like reeds seeking a tune, but I turned away, my victory a private melody burning bright within, a composition no critic could silence. The fallout was swift and relentless, a discord that shattered the remnants of Eleanor's musical empire. Conductors suspended her from the Auckland Philharmonic, seizing rehearsal spaces in the town hall and storage rooms in Parnell where scores sat silent, records from grant files hauled away in crates, freezing her personal accounts that held the profits of her deceit, halting her concerts across the Pacific where she'd once conducted, while inspectors raided her Herne Bay villa for evidence of fraud, uncovering a vault with plagiarized manuscripts. Her orchestra collapsed like a poorly tuned instrument, her reputation tarnished beyond repair, ensembles distancing themselves with press releases, her name a cautionary tale whispered in conservatories from Wellington to Christchurch, a fallen maestro replaced by silence. The media dug deeper, uncovering a $100,000 slush fund for bribed adjudicators that funded her Coromandel Bach and James's wardrobe, a detail that sent shockwaves through the New Zealand arts scene and prompted a national review, the scandal dominating morning radio. Aria reconciled fully, moving into our flat to help expand my ensemble into a youth orchestra, her prodigy skills blending with mine, while Leo joined as a composer, his creativity a new movement. Hannah and I rekindled our dreams, planning a garden getaway to a property we'd finally afforded, the scent of Pohutukua a promise of peace. James faded from gala circuits, his social circle evaporating like a fading note, and Oliver, Eleanor's son, distanced himself, seeking a cello position under a new mentor to escape the taint. I didn't gloat, my goal was justice, not destruction, a balance I'd learned from years of playing through pain, but the sight of Eleanor's fall brought a profound peace that filled the hollow left by her words, a quiet satisfaction that settled in my soul like a well-played chord. That night, at 3:49 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time on September 1, 2025, adjusted to 5:49 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, I sat with a cup of chamomile that grew cold on the counter, the news confirming her suspension on a muted TV, a letter from Eleanor in hand, its envelope creased from my grip. Liam, I was wrong. Help me, it pleaded, her handwriting shaky with the defeat that had finally overtaken her, the ink smudged as if by tears of regret. I didn't reply, the past too raw, my strength too hard won to soften now, the paper crumpling in my fist as I set it aside to focus on the melody ahead. Months later, her hearing began in a courtroom in High Court, Auckland, conductors and inspectors wielding my evidence with the precision of a metronome, Tara's testimony a damning narrative of musical corruption, and Kiri's audit records a final score, the gallery filled with former players who nodded in silent support, their bows traded for suits. I attended the first day, my presence a silent testament to my journey from section violinist to this moment, seated beside Arya and Hannah whose hand I held tightly, and watched Eleanor's defense crumble under the weight of truth, dozens of former musicians stepping forward with tales of pressure and theft, their voices a chorus of validation that echoed through the room. The judge, a stern jurist with a passion for chamber music and a gavel that rang like a timpani, ordered a full investigation, hinting at a potential ban from conducting and fines that loomed like arrest, his ruling a vindication of my 15-year wait. Arya and I launched O'Connor Youth Strings, restoring family pride with educational performances, hiring Tara as a coach whose expertise bridged my past and present, while Hannah retired from floristry to teach music to kids, her hands finding new purpose in tuning young voices. I visited the town hall once, its stage silent with the absence of Eleanor's baton, its piano a memory of my youth, a monument to her greed and my redemption that stood tall in my heart. My revenge, 15 years in the making, was not just justice served with a flourish of spite. It was my rebirth, a symphony reclaimed from the silence of her sabotage, a testament to the resilience I'd always carried within, a melody that rose stronger with each note I played.